Welcome to our April episode of the Library Show. We're going to have a little look back to some degree, and the look back is when I came to Lower Merion more than 40 years ago. I used to take my kids to Penn Wynne Library. They loved it. They loved Judy Soret. They loved the programs. They did every summer the frequent reading programs. They went during the year, and I happen to think that reading is a gift that lasts you for a lifetime. And there's nothing like implanting that gift in kids' minds when they're young. High school, college, okay, but get them when they're young. It's a great idea. Judy is retiring at the end of, she just retired actually at the end of March. And that is after a very long time. We have Judy on today. Judy, welcome to the Library Show.
Thank you. Thank you.
You've been on wearing different hats, both in terms of being the director of Penn Wynne and also for your wonderful role in One Book, One Lower Merion. And you're always a great idea person. So let's talk for a moment about what ideas over all these years you think were your two or three favorites.
Well, actually, I think some of my favorite ideas had to do with our renovation at the library, because we went from being a very dark, kind of crammed little library to a very sunny and bright building. And part of that was my fight with our architects who wanted to build the library build a second floor and have the library have the children's room upstairs and the main floor downstairs. And I fought them because I did not think it would fit into our community. And I really wanted the space to be one floor because it's a lot easier to staff. So they did, thankfully, accept my ideas. And so as a result, they built out the front of our building, which is the porches are very bright and sunny. And now we have all these alcoves where people can sit and read and work. And every day there's people sitting at those desks. My other good idea also had to do with that, because the architects did not plan on putting any electrical outlets in all those alcoves.
Oh my gosh.
And I was sitting at the meeting the one day, and I said, where are all the outlets? Because you're going to have people sitting at every one of these tables. And they said, why should we put an outlet there? And I said, because every single person sitting at that table is going to have a device of some form or another that's going to need to be plugged in. They're like, oh, okay. Well, fortunately, that was before they were still able to put that into the plan so that they didn't have to dig up all of the concrete and rewire. But those were my two probably best ideas.
Oh, I would give a hurrah for both of those. I'm surprised. It sounds like those architects were not people used to designing libraries, because if they were used to designing libraries, I would think that they would think about this. So you've given them a skill set that they can use with other clients. So that was a big plus. Is that a good way to look at it? I think it's a great idea to have outlets.
It does make me very happy when I drive by and I see people sitting at all of the tables, and I can see in the children's room there's benches in there and chairs and people sitting together reading, and that makes me feel really good.
Well, the thing I have to say is that not only does all that glass bring in light during the day, but when I was at the book event, the spring book event last year, which was kind of cocktail hour-ish, light came in the early evening too. It was sort of amazing. It wasn't dark. You certainly had lights on and of course food out, which was wonderful. But it really felt bright even in the evening, which was terrific. So I think you did a great job on insisting that it be on one floor. It's also accessible for everybody, for little kids, for senior citizens, for adults. It's great. And and yet it keeps that same feeling. And it's not just because you're at the front desk, although that's a big thing. That won't happen in the future, but it's terrific. It's a great library. By the way, do you know who is replacing you? Is that a tactful question? No. Okay.
No, they
posted.
I believe they have advertised it, but okay, I won't be part of that.
These things take their own time, and I guess
yes, they do.
That's what's happening. Are there any programs that you think about and you say, gee, I wish we hadn't done that one, but now that it's almost all over, what might you be able to say about that?
We hadn't done?
Yeah, say, oh, this was not a big success, or perhaps this one was not our favorite, but it was really funny when it happened.
I really don't think that I would have canceled anything that we did. I don't think we had any abject failure. Some
Okay,
things were better than
I
others.
didn't mean that anything was an abject failure, but in terms of a whole many years, many decades of track record, that there might have been something that you thought maybe a little less than perfect. This one.
No, I think that we've gotten better and better with our summer reading. Every year, we really try to make that an enjoyable event for the kids. It was a little weird during COVID, but we're now back to
I like the little
much
bags.
more new.
Did you do the bags also where kids could come to the library and get their little go bags with all their stuff? That I thought was an absolutely brilliant idea for the system.
Yes, we gave out thousands of those bags.
Yeah, for those of you who may not have participated, knowing that people did not want to come into the building, the librarians prepared go bags. So it was a little bag that had the child's name on it, and they put in it names of books. They put in it snacks. I think there were some snack items too. And basically it was a fun thing to go to the library and get this, even if you couldn't go and browse the shelves. So I thought that was terrific. I do have to say one thing about the architecture of Penn Wynne. Some years back, I was the president of the Lower Merion Library System, and I had cause to come and speak to the Penn Wynne board. And at that time, the Penn Wynne board was meeting upstairs in a room that had very steep eaves. And I went in and I kind of had my head a little bit sideways because it was not very high. And I thought, well, one of the requirements to be on the Penn Wynne board was to be short, because it was only short people who could climb those stairs, which are very old and very narrow, and could be in that room. And I still remember that. People were lovely. It was a very nice board. I'm assuming that that was renovated as well.
Yes, actually, we lost about half of that space up in the attic. And what's left up there is pure storage now. And the architects also put in all of the electrical and mechanical things in the room that you used to walk through, where the old magazines used to be. So all of the mechanical things are upstairs now and not outside.
Where does the board meet now?
They meet down in our regular meeting room.
Okay. So you have a meeting room. Okay. Because you did not have a meeting room on the ground floor at that point. That's why it was upstairs. I remember.
No, it was a terrible room. It was a terrible space.
As I say, all kinds of things get utilized. The other thing I wanted to ask you, you have been a tremendous contributor to One Book, One Lower Merion with book ideas and book reviews and just sort of a general sense of what's going on in the book world. Do you have any favorite books this year that you have particularly liked that you might like to recommend to our audience?
One book I really loved was called Mother, Daughter, Traitor, Spy by Susan Elia McNeill. She's written the Maggie Hope series, and this was a novel based on an actual mother and daughter pair who lived in California, and it was how they infiltrated the Hitler group that was in place in Hollywood, and how during the 40s, and they actually infiltrated it, and it was about how they took them down, because this group had started building this big bunker for Hitler for when he won the Second World War. And if you go on YouTube, you can find the remains of this place that was built. And it was just an absolutely fascinating and horrifying story about people's blind allegiance to someone who you should not be feeling that allegiance to. So I thought it was a great book.
That's terrific. Mother, Daughter, Traitor, Spy. And it's obviously nonfiction.
No, it's fiction.
Oh, it's fiction.
It's a fictionalized version of what the mother and daughter did.
Okay.
But then you can look at it. There are other books about Hitler in Hollywood and other. It's a fascinating and scary subject.
That is a scary subject. You would think people would know better when they're out there in public, in a sense that it wouldn't happen. Judy, tell us for a moment, what do you think you're going to do now that you're going to be retired? What are your favorite things to be doing, and what do you think you might get to now?
Well, I have two small grandchildren. My granddaughter's 7 and my grandson is 3. And I'm fortunate enough to live next door to them, because we put an addition on my house right before COVID, and my son and his wife and children moved in. So I've been able to see them every day. Now I will get to see them even more.
That's a gift. That's wonderful.
It is. It's a real pleasure. And sometime I guess I will start to travel again. I would love to go back to Scotland. I have a big to be read pile by my bed. I may start quilting again, and I also would like to continue to stay on the library's payroll and help out at some of the libraries and help people check out and talk about books, because that's the thing I think I will miss the most.
Oh, so we'll get to see your face at the checkout
Oh,
desk.
yes.
Oh,
I'm
how
not
nice.
moving.
Oh, how
Yes,
nice.
I'm
You're
not
not
moving
dropping
to
off the ends of the earth and you're
Oh,
no.
no.
You'll be visible. Okay. I have a friend who lives in Texas, a very small town in Texas. And I said to her, I said, what do you do? I mean, it's a really small town. And she said, well, I quilt. So I went to visit her, and there are quilts hanging over all the railings in the house because they take up space, quilts. So wish you much joy with that. It's a very wonderful hobby, because you can have them, you can give them away. I guess you could sell them if you don't want to keep them, but it's a very neat thing. The other thing is, Judy, I know you're always the one at our one book meetings who will remind us when the Sundays are that the Eagles are playing. We're saying, should we have an event on this Sunday? And Judy goes and looks it up and says, oh no, the Eagles are playing and they're in town. And we plan everything for you, the audience. We really do. Are you going to be on top of the Eagles now? Is that going to be a big interest, or maybe not?
Maybe not. I was never a giant football fan to begin with, and my son and his family are all big Union fans. They all have season tickets to go to the
Union soccer?
Yes.
Okay.
So we watch a lot of soccer.
Is your 7-year-old a boy?
No, my granddaughter's 7. She's given up soccer. She's now doing ballet, but they all go to the soccer games.
Okay, well, it sounds like fun. The thing about soccer is that it's very lively and it moves quickly. So I like that. Sort of like, and I, by the way, pardon me, I was just looking for a gift for a cousin, and I got her one of the Inspector Gamache books, because you always talked about how much people love these books by Louise Penny, long series by an 85-year-old author from Quebec about a detective in the it's not the Sûreté, it's the Canadian equivalent, the detectives. And it's a marvelous book, marvelous atmosphere. And Judy has always been a champion of these books. We haven't been able to get that author because she has not been willing to come from the wilds of Quebec to come here. But Judy, it's been a great pleasure knowing you over these decades, working with you, seeing you, and I'm glad to know that we're going to still have the opportunity to see you. I wish you all the best in your retirement.
Thank you so much, Lenore. It's been an honor to work with you.
Thank you. All right, stay tuned. We'll be right back with The Library Show. Welcome back to The Library Show. Adam Haigh, who is the IT person for the whole Lower Merion Library System, has been on the show before. He's pretty much always been on talking about IT, talking about new equipment, all kinds of things that are happening. And he has been a tremendous addition to Lower Merion Library System staff. Well, this season, he's taken on a new responsibility, and he is now the interim director of the Belmont Hills Library, because Lizzie Barry has left. And not only has she left the United States and went to Ireland, and we'll talk about that another time. But Adam is now wearing 2 hats. It looks like he's not wearing any hat at all, but he's actually wearing 2 hats. He continues to be the IT person, and he's also the interim director of Belmont Hills. And I thought, gosh, this is an unusual enough situation that he should be on the library show to talk about it. However, before he does, I want to talk about something that relates to each and every one of you. As you gathered from things I've said, I'm very interested in authors of books. Well, Lynn Williamson, who's the new executive director of the library system, has come up with a program where you can tune in to the LMLS website and you can hear a Zoom talk by an author, several authors, and authors who you may never have heard of. Adam, can you tell us a little bit about how people can do this?
Sure. Yeah, it's the Library Speakers Consortium. And so basically what we've done is we've integrated all of the events with our normal events calendar. So people don't even have to go any further than they would normally look to see what's on at the libraries. And all the programs are in there. You register. The registration actually takes place through the Library Speakers Consortium. So it's a little different, but they're great. There are a variety of authors. There you can register, watch it later, watch it live. So just to be clear, the talks themselves are not necessarily live. You're not going to get a chance to ask the author questions, but there is a moderator that works for the Speakers Consortium, and they kind of do a good job asking the questions, and it's a very popular service that a lot of other libraries have used, and that's how we learned about it. And so it's great.
How long is each talk?
I think it varies. Typically about an hour or so.
Oh,
I mean,
long.
not. It's not half an hour. But I do think the length will vary. But we've had like people talking about cookbooks. We've had people talking about. I think there might be one on there that's coming up that like does graphic novels, fiction, nonfiction. So they're really good.
Okay. And is there any way to monitor the success of a particular author, or to say this month this many people have tuned in, or last month we had fewer people?
Yeah. So we'll get through our administrative portal. We'll get a statistical interface with reports that we can run to see how popular it was. So the nice thing is we subscribe to it for a year, and then we'll see how successful it is. I imagine it's going to be very successful, but it's an annual subscription, just like any of our other electronic resources. So,
when Lynn mentioned it to me, I thought that was a very clever and original idea, because people sometimes don't want to go out to hear an author, but they're interested in a variety of authors, and this gives a lot of people the breadth of authors in different areas. I have to say, she sent me a list of several authors who are coming up in May, and I hadn't heard of a single one of them. So I thought, okay, I need to get educated. These are people I'd like to hear and find out about them and about their books, because eventually it all comes down to books to some degree.
As much as we'd like to host live author events and have people here, it's just not financially feasible to host all these authors. So this is the one way where we can get these authors in, expose our readers to the authors, draw some interest, and then not have to necessarily worry about doing our own programming related to the author. So
yeah, I think it's a great thing. Well, that's the first thing. I wanted to be sure to mention that. And Adam is an expert, as you could tell, on all that. Adam, what have you found in being the interim head at Belmont Hills that you might not have expected to find being in that position?
I think I kind of had a sense of what it was going to be like going in. I was actually technically the acting head on a much lower capacity when in early 2017, prior to Lizzie Berry. So now I bookended her.
Okay.
Because you'll remember that Robin Langston, the director of Ludington Library, was the director of Belmont Hills, the head of Belmont Hills. And then she was promoted to the head of Ludington Library, and they needed someone to fill the gap. And so I filled the gap in early 2017. I think it's very interesting for me to see what people are checking out. That's one thing I'm not exposed to in technology, where I don't necessarily see what people are checking out. So every day I can turn around at the circulation desk of the library and look and see what holds are waiting for people, and I learn about new authors that way and what's popular, and so.
Well, that's neat. Do some of the people who saw you in that position in 2017 recognize you now that you're back?
I think some do. I think I would suspect maybe it's more on their end recognizing me than me recognizing them, because that was within my first 8 months on the job. So I was still very much learning everything then. But no, there are definitely people around. Some of the board members I've got a chance to work with this time are still the board members that were there when I was there for the first time around. So
Well, I think you're remarkably flexible, because I don't know that going from IT to being an individual library head is such an easy transition, but you've done it twice. So
I
that's
have,
pretty good.
but I still keep my technology roots. I'm still spending time at the township building each week doing IT stuff. That's the nice thing about our consortium, is that they have the tools in place that allow me to do my job from anywhere with internet connection. So,
Is there anything new on the IT front for the library system? I guess I should get that one in there, because sometimes you can surprise me and there's something new coming down the path.
say right now, I can't think of anything that's particularly earth shattering that we can talk about now. There may be some things coming down the pipe in the fall, but we're not really far enough in those to guarantee.
Okay, so people have to kind of keep their ears to the grindstone
Yeah,
here.
there may
go
be
down on
there's
the
some
list.
possibilities we're exploring, but nothing definitive. I always like to remind people now, especially that things are opening up. It's not necessarily technology, but our museum pass program that you've talked about before,
Mhm.
because library places are starting to open back up, and then obviously mobile hotspots, which are other things that people can take advantage of.
Can you tell me a little bit about mobile hotspots? Because I'm not sure I could.
Yeah. So you have your cell phone, and you work on Verizon, AT&T, whatever, T-Mobile. So these hotspots work on the T-Mobile network, which used to be the Sprint network, and it basically allows people to connect to the internet via the hotspot, regardless of whether of where they are, as long as there's a cellular connection. So it's been very popular.
I seem to remember there was a time when the parking lots of the libraries were hotspots, and people could pull into the parking lot and stay in their
Some
cars.
are better than others.
Oh,
I think all
okay.
of them have some capability, but due to the way the buildings are constructed, sometimes you have to be physically in the building because of the way the walls are built to do it. But yeah.
All right. And since we're here at the beginning of spring, let me ask you if there's anything coming up where Belmont Hills will be doing anything in connection with the pool, which is practically adjacent to you.
Yes, we're hoping to do some more partnerships with them. We have had some partnerships with them in previous summers. There may be an option to have a table down at the pool to talk to people about the library. We're trying to figure that out now. Fortunately, working in the township building primarily, I've gotten to know the director of Parks and Recreation, Donna Heller, quite well. So I had that relationship ahead. I guess one exciting thing that we need to settle on a date on, we received a generous donation from the American Legion. And so we will be doing a flagpole dedication sometime this spring.
June 14th, around Flag Day, perhaps?
Yeah, Flag Day, Memorial Day, somewhere in that range. So we will be working on that. We'll probably have to talk to Mark and see if we might have a live broadcast of that at some point. But yes, we're very excited it was a very generous donation, and we're very grateful to the American Legion for making it possible and making it possible to do some other things at the library. So most of that was handled towards the end of last year. But Lizzie Berry, the previous head, was kind of instrumental in helping get that together. So,
well, she was terrific. I remember her back when she was a children's librarian at some point and had been on the show talking about that.
Despite being of a young age, she had over 20 years of service into the library system.
Well, personally, I'm curious to know if, having moved over to Ireland with her husband and being in a smaller city, is she going to get involved in the libraries there? And how different are libraries in Ireland from libraries in the U.S.? And I know nothing about that.
I believe in the meantime, she has found employment with a service called We Need Diverse Books, which she was very passionate about.
Ooh.
Which is a growing movement in libraries. Like making sure that libraries and librarians are aware of the diverse diaspora of authors that are available. So I believe she's working for them.
Okay, super. Well, we're going to see a diversity of books in all kinds of ways in our library. Thank you very much, Adam, for being on. Good luck at Belmont Hills.
Thank you.
And I'll see you on IT too. Thanks for joining us for the library show this week. Bye-bye.